in space warfare and implications for conservation. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I've been talking on this topic a couple of times earlier also. Thank you for your support. The game about this space warfare, it's a game because everybody understands this game in a different manner. Point is, we have space operations, we got counter space operations, we got satellite killing, we got the plethora of events that can take place. They're all part of one big game that's called the space dominance. Or it's more accurately to be called as aerospace dominance. Because whatever dominates the space will dominate the air also. What we've done is, the space, as a definition, space warfare is technically, there's a belligerent and at least one of them is in the space and is operating from across the carbon 9. Two targets which are all either on the ground or from the ground onto target which are into the space or from space towards space. So you have a three-way conundrum in this case. What happens is the definition of space war is much easier to understand, it's very obvious. But over the years what we've learned is that not everybody understands the definition or the connotation of this definition in the same manner. For example, a country that has barely 5 or 10% education rate, an economy that's barely managing, will have no interest in space warfare. For them it's Star Wars. Star Wars the big empires. For others who are at the edge of technology, that is something very important. So what we have done is, there's a concept and system in engineering is called technology readiness levels, TRLs. What we've done is we have brought in space technology readiness levels at the strategic levels, at a strategic plane. And so we've defined this in 6 levels. Level 0 is where the STRL 0 starts, is where the countries with absolutely no capacity at this moment to get into any kind of a space program. And we climb up the ladder. At TRL 5, we will define countries that have turnkey solutions to the space programs. So that means that we as a nation, Pakistan, the country, stands somewhere in between. And our assessment on technology is that Pakistan stands somewhere in the middle of STRL 3. Our neighbor to the east stands, by virtue of the technology they hold at this moment, at the top of STRL 4. So because they have been producing technology, they are now contributing to the global economy through their space technology. They have enough infrastructure in place to bring about counter space operations and then make us survivor, as Dr. Sarosh just mentioned, to neutralize your enemy's adversary's abilities. Essentially, when we talk about using space technologies, there's a concept called as OODA loop. Observe, orientate, decide, act. Using space technology is basically shortening the OODA loop. Any nation that has a complete infrastructure will be able to shorten the OODA loop. Anybody else will not be able to probably manage that level. For countries like Pakistan standing at STRL 3, the options are very hard. They are economically bound. We have issues with our diplomacy also. So competing against somebody with STRL 4 and then STRL 4 competing in turn with STRL 5. At STRL 5 we generally rate United States, China, Russia and the European Union as a whole. Because their ESA has enough infrastructure to put in place a CSO program. Space warfare is essentially counter space operations. And counter space operations, we put them in 2 categories, the offensive and the defensive one. You and me, we can all put together a defensive CSO wherever we decide. It doesn't cost much. And we don't need to have a huge space program either. But an offensive counter space program is one that is actually dominating the whole technology scenario. We're talking about ASATs. The ASATs have moved from ground launches and air launches to now mid-course launches. You can launch and mid-course change it to an ASAT operation. We've had co-orbital ASATs, and even 3 days back it was reported on space.com and all the media that in October 2020, STJ-3 actually had a RPO of over 3.5 hours with US 233 and US 283. It stayed there. And it was monitoring and it was studying whatever it was doing, and then it would very easily, after the RPO, move back to its own orbit. We had SJ-21 do this thing. It took out a satellite took it, grabbed it, and dropped it into into the graveyard orbit. We can call this space debris remediation, but essentially this is counter space operations, and this is testing ground. And any country that does not have a CSO in place at tier 4 and 5 should not expect. Now, at a strategic level, this means that for a STRL4 country like India, space technology is going to be at the heart of their space, at the heart of all their military missions. But what happens at STRL5? At STRL5, we believe that countries will have their entire strategic outlook and their military missions designed around the space program. They rely on the space program. They rely on neutralizing other countries through the space program. And they have the capability and the capacity to do it. Now, what do we do at this stage? Pakistan, with its economic conditions, cannot still remain oblivious of whatever assets we have. We just got one ParkSat-1R, we got 3 PRSS-1, and a couple of launch systems. We got to save them. Defensive counter-space operations is our only option. And if we want to go for this option, if we have to go for offensive at some point, if economy permits, for example, then we have to be very selective on choosing targets. It should not be across the board. We should not take this liberty, because collateral damages, the impact of space technology is more on civilian than on military actually. The disaster is much more. So probably we'll have to work that way up as we go along, and to do that we'll have to create a think tank, as I was in the morning I was discussing, a think tank where strategy, technology, tactics work at the same level. We don't do that at this moment, but we will